Greetings, everybody. This is Brian Terrian from the Disability Digest here, and thanks for joining our YouTube Live. We've had some technical difficulties, and so we're going to be broadcasting from another location. David, I'm going to put this. Greetings, everybody. This is Brian Terrian from the Disability Digest here, and thanks for joining our YouTube Live. We've had some technical difficulties. And so we're going to be broadcasting from another. All right, so I put the new location link in chat. Spread that around to Facebook, and then we'll focus on just doing this event right and getting the replay out there. Okay, good. All right. Shall we get on with the show?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Once again, this is Brian Terrian from the Disability Digest, and I appreciate your patience today with our technical difficulties, but we are excited to share with you some expert tips on why disability cases get denied. Have our special guest here, Michael Sexton. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Thanks for bringing me on, Brian.
Yeah, so I think we're even on the day. You had some technical challenges earlier, and we had them here, right? But we're gonna get the show done. We have David with us and Philip. Gentlemen, thanks for joining, helping us out with the program here today. So, as I was looking at this event and kind of reflecting upon it, one of the individuals that I have a lot of respect for is Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man, or formerly. And he has this philosophy or position on business is to look at what goes wrong, calls it the inversion technique that I use for the chat and chat GPT. If you look at what goes wrong, you can avoid it. Right, so that's what we're going to do today with Michael's. We're going to go through and take a look at what things go wrong in disability cases. So I asked Michael to come out and do this because Michael is one of what I would say the new and up and coming individuals in the Social Security world. He runs his own practice that you see up here on the screen called Spartan Disability. Hopefully you'll hear more about that in a minute. But Michael has an interesting background. He went to Michigan State to law school, graduated. While he was in law school, was actually working and practicing disability law. But when he got out of school, chose not to pass the bar. And go forward and sit for the bar so you could become an attorney or a lawyer. And I'll let you tell that part of the story, which I think is really fascinating because individuals are hung up on the whole attorney lawyer thing. And what fascinates me about Michael is your approach to it. You were influenced by a family member that has a severe disabling condition. So you're in it for the right reasons. And you invest a lot of time and effort in helping to get members approved. And why I feel that's important for this is despite all of that, sometimes you don't win, right? But I know here you have, I can say this, I'm not going to say our win rate, but in the recent run for people representing our disability cases here at the Disability Digest, Michael hands down has got the best award rate. So the work that he does is brilliant. So thank you once again for coming in and helping us understand why disability cases get denied. So I'll turn it over to you and look forward to getting into some of this information.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for bringing me on, and I appreciate that introduction. We've certainly had a lot of success working together as we had recently. So as Brian said, my name is Michael Sexton. I am technically a non-attorney disability representative, also non-attorney disability lawyer, which is confusing. Instead of the bar exam, I opted to take the Social Security EDP&A exam, which means that I'm licensed to practice in the same capacity as any attorney within the realm of Social Security disability. However, I'm not licensed to practice bankruptcy and personal injury and all the other types of law that I frankly have no desire to do. Coming out of law school, I wanted to intensely specialize in this field. I know, we had a name for them in law school. They were called street attorneys, and they were kind of a jack of all trades. They did a little personal injury, a little bankruptcy, a little tort law, a little contract law, a little disability, and they didn't really master any particular field. And I wanted to do the opposite of that. I wanted to be the best representative in this field that I could be. And as you had mentioned, Brian, I grew up with a very disabled mother. She suffers from a rare condition called arachnoiditis, which is essentially where the cartilage in between your vertebrae has completely disintegrated. Just on its own, it erodes due to inflammation and other causes. And the vertebrae starts to fuse together, just impacting, and not in a good way like a surgical fusion would be, in a very non-surgical or precise way. So it's incredibly painful. And that's really where I got my desire to help take care of and help represent to the best of my abilities the disabled people in this field. Now, coming into this field, I had fortunately a couple of mentors, one of which is my aunt. She practices out of Washington State, Patty Sexton.
Shout out to Patty, Aunt Patty.
She's a phenomenal representative and really taught me the ins and outs of this field. I also, as you had mentioned, Brian, started working in this field and really practicing on my own while I was in law school, which did not make for an easy law school experience. But I started doing not only representing clients in hearings, but also doing vocational contract evaluation work for a vocational expert in Michigan, Karen Starr. She's phenomenal, and that type of work is something that most attorneys and reps never get the opportunity to engage in. And it's something that I find invaluable in my day-to-day practitionings of this field. I started my practice following law school, Spartan Disability Advocates. Chose the name Spartan Disability because the hardworking nature of the idea of a Spartan who defends those in their society and works tirelessly day in and day out to do so. I found that very fitting for how I go about bringing my mantra of hard work into this practice. And I work very hard. If the average attorney or non-attorney representative maybe puts a couple of hours on a contract basis into a hearing, I mean, my bare minimum is 12 hours. So it is a substantially different level of effort. And Brian, as well as the other firms that I work with on a contract basis, they do pay substantially above market price to have me doing that level of work. And Brian and the others, it's because we really care about winning your case. We're not just pushing another number. We want to win your case because it's important to you, it's important to us, your families. It's also the ethical, moral, and really spiritual thing to do.
Spot on. Yeah, well said. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a consumer perception that if you go get an attorney, they're going to be good. And like you said, if you look at somebody's website and they're doing divorce, dog bites, car accidents, and oh, by the way, we'll take your disability case. It's a word of caution. So yeah, it's like anything else. You got to do a lot of it to be good at it.
Yeah, be very cautious of the street attorneys. They are to be avoided.
Right. So I want to get into it. I think we have like 13 categories that really trip people up in getting their cases approved here that we have outlined to go over today. So let's start with the first category is the work aspect, continuing to work. And what can you share with the audience about the working, going through the approval process and how that would impact the outcome?
Yeah, well, it's not uncommon for claimants to be working in some capacity. However, and especially the higher skill, what we call SVP, the higher skill occupations and thus the higher paying occupations, it doesn't take very much work to reach that SGA, that substantial gainful activity limit of a
Mm-hmm.
monthly amount.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and there's a number of ways that they can find work to be substantial. I mean, they can find it to be substantial because you're volunteering at a place, you're making too much money per month, you're doing too many hours of work, or the work that you're doing, even on a limited part-time basis, is more arduous than would otherwise be comfortable with the disability they're considering.
Mm-hmm. What
Uh,
about school?
yeah, schooling can be considered substantial work. I just recently ran into a case or an issue on a case like this where, the mother called me, said my daughter's very disabled, needs help, but she's getting her bachelor's degree. And I said, well, is she going full time? And just because you're going to school doesn't mean that you're engaging in substantial work. But do you have accommodations? Are you going full time or is it part time? Do you have
Yeah.
a 504 plan? I mean, there's other factors to consider. If it's full time with no accommodations, that's substantial work.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. Let's move into the area of age. Like, I always explain one of the things I think about with Social Security, if they approve somebody that's in their like 30s, they're going to be on the hook for paying them for years. I mean, the approval rates are low, but can you expand on that, Michael, and help the audience understand where this could cause a denial?
Yeah, well, I mean, just like you said, Social Security is really hesitant to pay out benefits to someone in their 30s, their 20s, with the idea that, the amount of money that we might have to pay out over the next 50 plus years, depending on how long you live, especially if life expectancies continue increasing. I mean, it could be half a million, millions of dollars with the
Yeah.
cost of living adjustments. They're very hesitant. But the most important thing with the age categories is that they break everyone into different age categories. So under 50, by far the hardest disability standard to meet. And then 50 to 54, a little bit easier, can still be tricky. 55 plus, much easier than under, especially the 50 category.
Yeah.
The under 50, we basically have to prove that you're unable to do any job whatsoever that exists in what's called significant numbers in the national economy.
Mm-hmm.
And really that boils down to, sedentary and light type jobs. Can you even sit in an office, take calls, and type on a computer? Can you sit at a chair 6 out of 8 hours a day and use your hands to put boxes together in a little factory somewhere? And that's a hard standard to meet. That's over 50 and especially over 55. It's mostly based on your past work, based on whether or not you can successfully return to that past work or do something substantially similar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's really important for people to keep in mind. I mean, it can be done, but the degree of difficulty varies. Yeah. All right. The next one is a big one, in my opinion, which is medical treatment. Or let's say having too much medical treatment, I don't expect is a problem. I'm going to err on the side that's more of the lack thereof, Michael, right? So
Yeah.
what is the lack of what's enough, what's not enough? Let's get into that.
Well, we always recommend, I mean, as much medical treatment as you can possibly get. If you have really severe side effects from undergoing certain types of medications, that's one thing that's, good cause for not pursuing that treatment. Or if, it's a really highly risky surgery. But if there's, generally speaking, if there's a procedure, a medication, a type of treatment that your doctors think is going to substantially improve your conditions, Social Security expects you to do that. Without doing so, two things happen. One, they can just do a non-compliance denial, and they can just say, well, you're not complying with your treatment, therefore you're denied. The second thing is Social Security really, especially the judges and at the hearing stage, they love to say, well, if you're not willing to go through and do all that you can do to substantially improve your conditions, it must not be that severe. So anything that you say henceforth about, how severe your symptoms really are, well, they wouldn't be that severe because if that was me, I would be doing this procedure and this surgery and I would be trying to get better.
Hmm. I have two things to add to this. For those that are listening out there and you're approved for disability, in my opinion, this is one area that trips people up when they get approved. They're like, ah, yes, I'm going to back off on my treatment. I don't like my doctor. I'm not going to take those meds, and physical therapy is out, right? So you have to be conscious about that. Um, what about a situation like this? Talking back into compliance, Michael. Somebody has a procedure, let's say they're recommended to have a back surgery for a back fusion, and it's going to possibly help them out and get them back to work. But they're like, you know what? I've done my research. The chances of me getting an improvement are maybe like a 5 or a 7% improvement, and that's not guaranteed. I don't want to do it, right? So is there a way that you could advise people that they could communicate to their treatment team about their opinion or position on something like this, or maybe it's a medication that is a heavy narcotic they don't want to take because it really makes them loopy, so that they can be in compliance and still not do that procedure or medication?
Yeah, I mean, especially in more invasive procedures like that, back fusions. I mean, the best thing really is to talk to all of your healthcare professionals. If even one of your healthcare professionals disagrees as to the potential successful outcome of such a procedure, it's immediately conflicting professional medical opinions.
Okay.
And we see that pretty often because none of these procedures are cut and dry for the most part. And a lot of them are high risk. And multiple doctors were going to have different opinions as to whether, there's no risk, as to whether it's likely to result in a favorable outcome for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that's really good advice because people are genuinely concerned about just being another like uh you know another procedure, another medication. It's tough.
Yeah.
So that's good. Now, um, I'll tread lightly on this one, and you can answer it if if you like. But I am sure that there are instances out there. I know, as a matter of fact, there's people that have chosen representation that is less than desirable, could even be poor, and it's caused problems with their benefits, probably has prevented them from their benefits. So this I definitely expect contributes to a denial. But other than what you had shared about the street attorneys, is there anything else that you can add to this? Because I really do believe it's super important for people to understand, maybe a few tips as to what they could look for.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the areas where Brian and I really pride ourselves in the percentage of approval ratings that we receive. The percentage chance of you getting approved with a representative or attorney is on average 3 times higher than if you were unrepresented. However, I mean, relevant studies have shown that 3 times is not across the board. It varies, depending on your representative or attorney. It varies between 1 time, so the same as if you were unrepresented, all the way up to 5 times, 5 times more likely than being unrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
It's a substantial difference.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of the really big firms, they play a numbers game where they want to crank out as many cases as they can. And I've had a big issue in this field where, I refuse to go and work for these big firms. I refuse to just be, as they call themselves, a warm body in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who just sits there, they ask a few questions, they get it off their desk, and that's that. They let the cards fall where they may. There's a lot that we can do on our side. We are to some degree limited on how much control we have over the case, but there's still a lot that we can do. And the more work that we do, in my opinion, the more likely of an approval you're going to receive.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. It's two things to say on that I think with the representation where where they can help. Excuse me. Is this is evidence based? If you have evidence, you increase your chances for getting approved. You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you're starting with a representative and they go through and they review your case and they look and they see where the evidence is, and then there's opportunities for improvement, that's one area that you wouldn't likely be able to detect on your own, like certain exams. Or one of the things that we do here is coach people how to write down their limitations, put it on a piece of paper after they've journaled every day, and bring those into their appointments so that the doctor can understand what their limitations are. So it's things like that that make a difference with a representative. But I have been in what I refer to as the big box representatives prior to just going out and representing cases on my own. And that is exactly it. What I encourage people to understand, echoing Michael's point, is that some of these cases are going to get approved anyway. And they know that. Like 36% is a national average on initial application. So they'll take an initial application. That's their numbers. Are they going to do work on it? You know, I'm not going to comment on that. But so that's what you have to be careful of. All right. I think we covered that one pretty sufficiently. Um, so insufficient medical evidence, if somebody is not able to go to a doctor or get treatment, or you end up with them at a hearing, like, is there still a chance to get them approved?
Yeah, it's rare. It really comes down to what are the reasons for not having medical treatment. I mean, if you don't have health insurance, they're not going to expect you to be receiving a lot of medical treatment, undergoing these procedures. It's
Yeah.
just unreasonable to expect that. You can't afford it. In some states, I have a lot of clients, and Brian does as well in Texas. Unless you have children or you're found disabled, you don't get Medicaid. And that is tough on our clients because most of the time they can't afford medical insurance.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And on the contrary, Vermont has a really solid Medicaid program, but not many people live here. Um, okay, failure to cooperate. Like, this is another category where I don't really understand why people do it, but I mean, failure to cooperate for me could be just simply lack of communication. That's one of the biggest things. But uh, what other areas would you say are like causing problems with approvals or with cooperation?
Yeah, well, a couple of things on that. And the first one, cooperating when we talk about going in and making sure that your doctors know what symptoms you're dealing with, what difficulties you're dealing with day to day. It's incredibly important because I always tell people if it's not in your medical records, it doesn't exist. No matter how many times you say it out loud to a judge, you write it in a function report, if it's not in your medical records, it basically does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but some of the other areas of cooperation, I mean, you need to make sure that you're completing paperwork when Social Security sends it out, that you're letting us know if you have new medical. I mean, I had a hearing just recently where the judge at first got mad at me and then got mad at the claimant. And the reason was he had medical evidence that I was unaware of, and I had asked him many times, where have you been? What treatment have you received? And then he brought it up to the judge at the hearing. And the judge said, why haven't you ordered this? It's like, well, I've never heard about this. If we don't know where you've been, we can't get those medical records. And a lot of judges aren't going to even let us admit the medical records by the time that we find out about it, if it's too late.
Yeah,
So basic
yeah.
things like that, very important to your case.
I think really what it comes down to is you understand the process, get invested in it. If you can't find somebody that can advocate for you, that will, because this is like the last line of defense. I think, in my experience, I don't know about you, and Philip, you've talked to thousands of people over the year. Some people just don't treat this like with enough seriousness. They just don't. So which I don't get, but anyway. Okay. Somebody has gone through the disability approval process. Initial application got denied, reconsideration denied if they had it. They went to a hearing. Hearing gets denied. Okay. So prior denial. I'd like to give the audience some understanding of, like, is this the end of the road for them? If, what can they do from here going forward with that denial, that specific denial at a hearing? Because the other ones you should definitely appeal. That's easy, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, with the cooperation thing, whether or not you have a representative, if you receive a denial at the initial or reconsideration stage, you need to appeal that within 60, technically 65 days, but 60 days ideally. And if you don't, we see a lot of people say, well, it's not like I wasn't disabled before this point of time. But if you don't, that is Social Security's way of saying you agree with our decision that you are, in fact, not disabled. Now, at the hearing denial, that is a little bit trickier because there's more strategy involved in, do we wait for a year to get through the appeals council appeal? Do we have a chance of getting it into the federal courts, getting it remanded? If your date last insured, so the 5 of the last 10 years that you've worked, if that date is, you know, sometime remote or in the past, then you're probably going to need to appeal. But ultimately, whether or not to appeal a hearing denial, that really comes down to discussing it with your representative.
Yeah. The odds are low once you get, if you're denied at a hearing, right? It's like 1-2% overall. It's really, that's the numbers that I see. So
Yes.
what about this? Somebody is denied at a hearing, and we're a little bit off topic here, but I feel it's important. They're denied at a hearing, and they're not going to pursue the appeals council or federal. They want to apply again. Date last insured is intact. But they've had this whole other case that was denied. Is there some information or conditions or things that you look for that would make that case viable after it's been denied at a hearing?
Yeah, and technically to file any appeal whatsoever, but especially at that stage, you have to have new medical evidence. If you stop getting treatment since the last denial, there's no new medical evidence whatsoever. They're just gonna, summarily dismiss any future claim that you filed unless you have new medical evidence. Because if you basically you're alleging that, I wasn't disabled, I didn't appeal, therefore I wasn't disabled, but now my conditions are severe. And
Mm-hmm.
without medical evidence, there's no way of knowing that. Again, if it's not in the medical records, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist.
Yeah, yeah, good. Folks out there, I see the crowd is still coming in and building. We're going to take some questions for Michael in a few minutes. You can either put them in the chat and we'll answer them up, or I'll open up the phone lines and you can call in. So we'll do that in a few minutes, but we've got a few other topics to cover. Here is the next one. Substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, maybe they've done it in the past, they're not doing it anymore, maybe they're still doing it. Like, speak to that in the impact of getting a case approved.
Yeah, well, flat out, judges do not like substance abuse. That the use of like cannabis or marijuana, that's not as negatively impactful on a case as it used to be. Especially in the states where it's legal, it can still be to some degree. But the heavier, alcoholism, methamphetamine use, cocaine use, we see that a lot where judges just don't want to approve those cases. And more specifically, they do run an actual what's called a materiality analysis. And basically, they have to look at, are your conditions severe or made substantially more severe by your ongoing drug, alcohol, or addiction use?
Mm-hmm.
And if they are, almost irregardless of how severe they would be otherwise, they really just outright deny you. Now, if you've been in a motorcycle accident and you're using, methamphetamine, but your back is broken and your shoulder is dislocated and rotator cuffs are torn, that's a little bit different. They usually won't deny for that, but I would say 90+% of the time, heavy substance abuse is involved, judge is going to deny.
So I want to see if I'm hearing this correctly. If somebody has a major medical issue and they might be attempting to numb the pain with a narcotic, there perhaps is some more leniency for that than somebody that's just a recreational user.
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time we see the issue that had come up is, ongoing mental health issues, really severe anxiety, PTSD. Or the big one that I often see is hallucinations, schizophrenia associated with methamphetamine use.
Mm-hmm.
And the judges just say, well, of course you're having hallucinations, you're using methamphetamine.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's not disabling.
right, right. Um, well, this kind of is a segue from substance abuse into lying, exaggerating, and perhaps you've had this experience. I know we have, where we ask people questions and we don't always get the right answers. Uh, so you have to be very, very thorough and creative because people can tell you whatever they want to, and but that's it. So let's talk about whether it's intentional or non intentional. I expect they know if they're exaggerating, um, but how that can impact a disability approval chances.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest issues that I come across in my hearing stage. And being a hearing specialist, I see this a lot. So, if you make these huge, grandiose statements about how severe your symptoms are, I have migraine headaches. I just had this. I have migraine headaches 30 times a month, and I can't do anything whatsoever, on the 30 days a month that I have migraines. But then you've gone to your medical doctors and you've told them every single time for the last 2 years that you might have 3 migraine headaches a month and they're not that bad. And occasionally you'll have a bad. Well, all of your testimony from then on is now inconsistent with the record and thus considered unreliable to base any type of decision. So the judge is just going to say, well, either she's lying or she's so over exaggerating her symptoms that it's not a realistic determination to find him or her disabled. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other one, of course, if you intentionally lie to Social Security or a judge, it is considered perjury. I've never personally seen a case involving perjury. Uh, However, I've heard judges threaten it before, especially the some of the lower approval rating, not as friendly and
Mm-hmm.
more adversarial type judges.
Mm-hmm. I want to address this also on the flip side. We work with, probably have 28 to 32 veterans that are 100% rated P&T right now. And one of the challenges that we have, especially if they're combat have combat experience with this category and others that do this work, is that they don't exaggerate. They under what's the term? They
Heavily underreport.
underreport. So and they're taught that way. That's part of their DNA. So when they people look at their medical records, they're not consistent in you know in their limitations. So there's two sides to this. Not everybody over exaggerates, some under. So you need to be realistic with what the deal is. Yeah. Okay. I mean, what about there? I mean, do you find that there are people that just don't have a good case, and for some reason they think they do, or it's just kind of back to the exaggeration point?
Yeah, I mean, Social Security disability, it's one of the, especially under age 50 category, it's probably the highest disability standard that exists in the entire world. It's not like getting on short-term disability, long-term disability, workers' compensation, personal injury benefits. It's a very different standard than all of that, or VA disability. Um, and so we get a lot of calls from people who think, I'm 35, my back hurts, I have this condition, I'm disabled. And then, we run through basic questions, we run through the medical evidence and just say, look, like, you can walk, you walk 10 miles a day and you're 35 years old. You might have some back pain. Maybe that's negatively affected your previous heavy labor construction job and you're not making as much money, but you're not disabled. And,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
just, they're not going to find you disabled as a result.
Yeah. It's really difficult. Um, and yeah, I think there's enough said about that. And then there's another kind of piece relative to work, that when somebody starts their application um, and goes into the system, then they start receiving paperwork from Social Security. There's a work history report that's filled out. And can you explain like what items in that work history report could or have tripped people up and getting their benefits approved?
Yeah, that work history report is so crucial to the outcome of every single case, and especially if you are over the age 50, it is so vitally important. A lot of people just skip right through it. They look at it as kind of busy paperwork, mark some boxes. Oh, maybe I lifted 20 pounds, maybe I lifted 10, maybe I walked for a few hours here, sat for a few hours here. If you have a representative or attorney, they need to be doing this with you, or at least explaining how to go about correctly filling out these reports.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because it's going to determine what job they're looking at the step 4 part of the analysis as to whether or not you can successfully return to your past work. And if you're over 55, it is pretty much the entire disability analysis. Are you disabled is based on that work history report and based on the medical evidence to show why you cannot do that work history. Do not over exaggerate. Number one issue we see, other than nonchalantly filling it out as little as possible. Number one issue we see: do not over exaggerate your prior job titles. This is not a resume. We're not trying to prove that you were this manager, supervisor, owner of a warehouse. If you were a sales floor associate, just put sales floor associate. If you supervised a couple people, you can put that, but did you have the ultimate say in hiring and firing? Were you, actually a manager, or were you a what's called a working manager, a working supervisor? Did you just sit there all day and tell people you do this and you do that? Or were you on the floor in the warehouse also cranking things together and assembling everything together. Most of the time, that is actually the case. You are still lifting 50 to 100 pounds, and that's important. That is incredibly important.
Mhm. If somebody fills it out and they like don't do it properly, can they undo it?
To some degree. I go back before hearings and will redo work history reports a lot of times. And I try to explain it at the hearing that, they didn't really know what they were doing. They misunderstood the instructions. I wouldn't say it can be 100% undone, but yeah, I mean, to some degree, you need a professional's guidance and advice on
Right,
how to go
right.
about doing it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's good. Good. Well, listen, we have covered some awesome questions, and I expect that there's some questions lurking out there. So, Dave and Philip, if you have questions that are relative, like in the wheelhouse for Michael about cases being denied, or maybe other qualification related questions, uh, let's start going through those for those of you that are out there. And if you haven't entered your question yet, you can. I'll also open up the phone lines here in a minute. We'll take a few questions and then open the phone lines. We'll mix it up a bit. Okay. All right. Who's going first?
Damon, you go ahead.
All right. Well, I want to mention this first commenter first. William Palmer. What if your claim is for osteoarthritis in your knees and the judge says he sees the severity in my medical records but still deny because they say you can use your upper extremities? That for me is quite interesting.
Yeah, so that again is going to go more into the age category. What age category are you in? What was your past work? If you're again with that under 50 standard, I mean, it's the highest standard in the world, almost undoubtedly for disability. Probably what they said is yes, you won't be able to do light, medium, heavy work. You're not going to be able to stand and walk for 6 out of 8 hours a day, but they probably said that you can do sitting type jobs. So think about, what we mostly do throughout the day. I mean, we sit in an office chair 6 out of 8 hours a day. Occasionally we have to get up just to walk and grab some files. But for the most part, yeah, that's probably a sedentary type denial. Now, what that's really going to turn on is whether or not you need to use a walker. How severe, are the knees and inability to walk, or how unsteady is your gait? Do you fall? Do you need to use a cane? And if you do, a cane or walker, you need that medically prescribed.
Good points. Good question.
He says he's 53 years old.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah. So mostly based on the work you've done in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask him what he did for work, David, if you don't mind. Or just let us know
I
and we
think.
can, yeah.
Hmm.
Probably worked for one of
Oh,
those big box disability firms. And they
Hopefully.
didn't, and they didn't get him approved. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, what's next?
next, I'm inserting the second one before Philip uh gets his one. Please explain how you would use employee performance ratings or performance memos or write-ups to make the case for paragraph B of the listings for mental health conditions such as depression, PTSD, and OCD.
Performance write-ups. That's a tough one. I mean, you could allege, theoretically, and like I said, we do have a lot of leeway on what we can do, but that would come down to whether a judge agrees with that allegation or not. I mean, you can allege that's, say a write-up for inability to focus, concentrate, stay on task. You're not on task 20% of the day. I mean, you could allege that that's technically like a marked to extreme impairment in the category B listings. However, it's not a medical professional, it's more of a vocational observation. That honestly is going to go more towards step 5 and just showing that in a vocational environment, how much of the day are you going to be off task? How much difficulty do you have interacting with others? Why are you getting written up? Is it just for that reason? Are you getting into arguments with other people? Are you late, showing, missing days of work? That's going to be more towards the step 5.
Mhm. Mhm. That was good. Good. Philip, anything going on your side?
Yeah, hold on just a minute.
All right. David, you have one more while Philip's getting warmed up? Keep it flowing. I'm going to open the phone lines here right after Philip has a question, folks. So hang out. Go ahead, David.
Well, this is not from the comment section, but I just wanted to mention this. I talked to someone yesterday, and he said he is not considered completely blind, but he believes he's getting there. He has this detached retinas, and the doctors that he's working with are trying their best for him to, have the same or maintain this type of severity, but then he is not completely blind. It's just he believes he is turning blind, so he doesn't know what his chances are. What can you say about?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Um, I mean, not being completely blind, that's going to go more into, again, kind of that step 5. To what degree does his visual impairment affect his ability to function day to day, to do things in a work environment? Is he a safety risk? That's often the one that I usually go with, especially in vocational cross examinations. What type of safety hazard is posed? Can he see out of his peripherals whatsoever? I mean, it sounds like he's pretty close to being, almost there at the legal definition of blindness. Uh, and is it just one eye or is it both eyes? That's what a lot of that is going to come down to.
Mm-hmm. And also got to go back to age, right? What was he doing for work? Yeah, yeah.
He's doing this desk job or a design job working on a laptop for 18
For 18
Okay.
what?
18
Wow.
years.
Oh boy. All right.
Okay. Let's see here. It says, I just had a follow-up with my hand surgeon. His recommendation, or he's recommending another surgery on my hand, which may or may not help, but won't hurt. What is that? I've just started my appeal process and want to know if I can decline the surgery. Can they deny me my claim? I don't wish to have the surgery.
Mm-hmm. Good one. Just a shout out to everybody. Philip is working his way back. He has had some health challenges, and I am delighted to see you reading again, my friend. That's awesome. So, Michael, did you get the gist of that?
Yeah, yeah. That so essentially a second surgery on the same hand or wrist. Um, that's going to come down to, is it the same surgery? Is it a different surgery? Again, do the doctors expect it to significantly improve your conditions? What kinds of complications did you have with the previous surgery? Usually, in my experience, subsequent surgeries, if it didn't work before, it's probably not going to work next time. I mean, that's not always the case, but that's generally how judges and Social Security kind of sees it. I would make sure to let your medical professionals know that you don't want to do this. It didn't work before. What difficulties did you have with the previous one? Uh, why are you afraid of doing this next one? I mean, do you think And what do they think? Do they think it is going to substantially improve, but it just didn't work the first time? You know, how many surgeries do they expect you to, I mean, do they expect you to repeat it 20 times? No. So probably not, but that is something you need to be talking to your doctors about.
Yeah, and so also, as you had mentioned before, would it apply to look for a second, third opinion from your other?
No.
Yeah, and to see. I don't know, like if you go to your primary care asking them for an opinion on this, if they're really going to be able to provide any value, they'll probably punt on that one. But yeah. So, all right. So, David, we'll continue with the questions. I just want to give a heads up to everybody. I'll open the phone line and you can call in and we can go through your question. You can handle it that way, or you can continue to put the questions in the chat. And so the number is up on the screen. It's 844-717-2454. And when we get a caller, Michael, I'll be able to hear them. But it's usually difficult for you to hear, so I'll just translate the question when it comes in. But David, let's continue until we get a call.
Sure. Let me see here.
Got one more, Damon, if you want to go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Philip.
All right. Can you add diagnosis to your application as you get them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We do all the time. I'd be careful with this one
Just one
because
moment, folks. I'm going to put this on hold. It's Brian. Just hold a minute and I will come back to you and take your question. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
All right, Michael, go ahead.
I'll be pretty brief. I would be careful with this one because when did the condition actually begin versus when it was it officially diagnosed? So, you know, did the back pain start 2 years ago and you got an MRI a week ago? Because that's the onset should be 2 years ago. But yeah, we add diagnoses, medical records, new testing all the time.
Take this caller. Thanks for calling. Who am I speaking with?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Gay.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Would you repeat it, please?
Gay.
G-A?
G-A-Y, Gay.
All right, Gay, thanks for calling. How can we help you?
I just have a question. I applied for disability about a year and 1 month ago.
Okay.
And I have a reviewer, and I have spoken to him, and he told me he was finishing up his part, and he was going to send it to the physician for review. And I wanted to know if the physician wants to see me or talk to me. How do they usually do that?
This is a good question. Could you hear the question, Michael?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so I think the key part is the examiner is sending it to the physician. So yeah, this is a unique one for me. I don't know. What do you have to say?
Yeah, that's usually the stage where, so it gets sent to the physician, they go through all the medical records, and then they're going to determine whether or not you need a new examination. I might have missed the beginning. If it's physical, whether or not you need like a physical examination, a medicine examination, or whether or not, you know, mental, you need a psychological evaluation, neuropsychological evaluation. I always recommend, you know, if they say that you do, try to do the best that you can. Those examinations can be helpful, depending.
Okay. All right, Gay, did you hear the answer from Michael, or would you like me to repeat it?
I'm trying to listen to him. There's a delay.
Okay.
I always recommend, you know, if they say that you do, try to do the best that you can. Those examinations can be helpful.
Okay. All right, Gay, did you hear the answer? All right. Anything in addition to that, Gay? Is that helpful for you?
Yes, I did apply on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and because I was told by an attorney that I could probably do it on my own
Mm-hmm.
because I'm 64,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me he thought that with all of my issues, especially back issues,
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't have a problem. So
Good.
I'm hopeful.
One thing that you could do that we could help you out with is the Disability Digest. We have an approval course. So if you join us as a member, if you haven't already, and then you can get access to the approval course. If you do go for another exam, there's one particular lesson in the course there that will walk you through the key things to do at the exam. There's no charge for your membership. There's no charge for the course. So, and then hopefully you'll get approved. But if you get stuck or have a problem, then you'll have a resource that can help you out. So,
Okay, thank you so much.
you're welcome. Thanks for calling in. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Any other questions to address before I open up the lines again?
I would probably add one caveat to that last call. It used to be, whoever that attorney is that told her, you don't need a representative, you're 64. It used to be the case that almost was the situation. We see the 60 to 64 crowd, that age category, go to hearing a lot of the time now. I mean, I'm shocked at how many times I have cases that come across my desk where they're 63 years old. There's no way that they can work. But there's some little minor detail, some little minor caveat issue with their past work, their work history report. And that's brought it 2.5 years down the road to this stage.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing that is still out there that I see that people should be aware of is there are some people that do this work and practice it, but would prefer to have cases that are not initial applications, right? They're just not set up to do that. And I expect the street attorneys would be likely in this category as well. So we don't know who you spoke to. So another word of caution there, but yeah. Okay, David, Philip.
Go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, while we're waiting for the call, let me read one. Daughter of the King says, I'm not a veteran, but I have so much trouble coming right out and saying I'm hurt. I couldn't bring myself to apply until a bad fall on the job, and I'm still struggling to accept I can no longer work full time. Oh, this is not too detailed. If you can give more details, please, in the comment section, that will be great. Apart from that, I'm not seeing any new comments or questions, guys.
I have a reflection on that. I don't know if you do, Michael, but I do have a call coming in. One moment, guys. This is Brian. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Brian. This is Ace Man again. I don't know if you remember me.
Ace
I'm
Man.
one.
Refresh my
How you
memory.
doing? I was calling you about short-term disability and paying it back.
Oh, yes, Ace Man. Nice to hear from you. David, we'll come back
Nice
and
to
address that question. We'll hang out with Ace Man for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, how can we help you today? How things going?
No, just well, regular as usual. Waiting for my next stage to go forward. I'm still in the process. But I just wanted to ask your guest, Michael, what is the number one reason you see that people get denied every single time? Because I want to be ready for it. This is my first time ever going through something like that. I want to know what is the main reason that people get denied.
Ooh, that's a good one, Ace Man. I think you're in the running for my job.
No, I really, really want to know because I want to be prepared.
All right. Number one reason, Michael.
I don't know if there's any particular reason as to why someone or people get denied like 100% of the time, but the most denials that I see resolved from any particular issue, I mean, it would definitely be the medical evidence. It would be someone who goes in and they tell their doctor time and time again, I'm fine, I'm doing better. I went hunting last weekend, I went fishing, I gardened with my grandchildren. Most of the time when I get to the stage of the hearing, I look back and I say, all right, were you actually gardening? Were you actually fishing or hunting? And they say, no. I sat there, I laid in the truck bed, I told my grandchildren, do this, do that. I didn't do any of this. Were you actually feeling better? No, my back pain was terrible. You need to be telling your doctors about what you're dealing with, whether it's a good day or bad day. And if it's a good day, you need to tell them what happened on the bad day, how often those bad days occur. You know, if the medical records say that you're okay, no matter what you tell the judge, Social Security and the judge are going to say must be fine.
Yeah. So Ace Man, you were not able to hear that. Must be you have the volume down on your side, but you can definitely listen to the replay. But I'll give you the condensed version. It's the medical.
Okay.
It is
Medical.
It is the medical needs to be in line, and you have to be careful not to do some of the things that are going to perhaps disrupt your medical, you know, like going on vacation and jet skiing, or it's something like that, putting it on your social media.
Oh, yes.
So that was, but listen to the replay because my explanation is very, very condensed from what Michael shared with you. I appreciate you being proactive. That's an excellent question. Excellent question.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as proactive as I can be. And I guess I'll talk to you later about that short-term disability because I found out that I don't have to, at least not with my particular policy.
All right. All right. That's good. Hey, well, listen.
Thank you for the advice, too.
Yeah, I appreciate you tuning in, calling in, and we wish you well. Keep in touch with us, all right?
All right.
Okay, Smith.
Yes.
You bet.
All right, bye.
Okay, so let's go back to the individual that has a reporting issue on his conditions, right? And am I understanding the question correctly? Was reluctant to report his conditions properly, reluctant to file? Am I getting that right, David?
Yes.
Okay.
And she suffered from a fall.
Okay. You want to take a swing at this one, Michael?
Sure. Yeah, we see this a lot, especially amongst the more blue collar working type men who have been, trained their whole lives, and the more southern type men, been trained their whole lives to, pain is pain, you deal with it, you grit your teeth and you bear through it. I'm from Kentucky. A lot of, my friends are that way. I had a person in my high school cut their finger off on a hacksaw, put it on a bag of ice, went on with his day. It's very common. Yeah. It's something where if you can't go in and tell them yourself, try to make a list. Or if you're married, you have a significant other that maybe can explain what you're dealing with better. We have often recommended that, go in with your wife, your significant other, your partner, have them tell the doctor about what you're dealing with, and certain things are, kind of embarrassing to talk about. I mean, going in, being in a lot of pain and telling your doctor that you have erectile dysfunction. Not necessarily, material to the case, but a lot of male judges especially will take it more seriously, and that, well, if the pain is so severe that, it interferes with your ability to engage in relations with your significant other, spouse or wife, it must be pretty severe.
Yeah.
So even simple things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm not offended by the north-south thing. I'm okay with that, Michael. Philip did not blink an eye at that one, right? I think to just kind of echo on that, when you're going to the doctor, I encourage people to go to the doctor with a strategy to get better. And by writing down your limitations and bring them in there is holding them accountable. Like if you know you've got pain when you're standing, sure you can ignore it. But if you leverage your doctor from that perspective, it does two things. It gets the limitations in your medical records, and you're trying to get on with it. I don't know if that's going to be enough to offset the pride piece and not reporting, or no, I don't hurt that bad, or yes, I can do it anyway, but it's my 2 cents. Okay. Have we covered all the questions, gentlemen?
On my end, yes.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, listen, we are going to wrap up. Michael, thank you for joining us. They can find you by working with us here. They can find you by Spartan Disability out there on the web. So we appreciate you and your contribution here and the great work that you do. Your approach to this work in this space is unique, and I applaud you for it. And so for all of you listening out there, I hope you enjoyed this special event. I did actually have part 2 of our how to use AI to get and keep your benefits on for today, but I'm going to move that to 2 weeks out because we have another guest for next week that you'll learn about soon. So stay tuned. We're here most Wednesdays, and we're grateful to come out and provide this opportunity for you. Our goal here is to be a trusted source for you for your Social Security disability information. So we hope that you enjoyed the show. And if you did, give it a share it with friends, have them listen. It'll help them understand what they can do to avoid the pitfalls of getting their cases denied. All right, gentlemen. Thanks again. Make it a great day. Until the next time. Love to have you back, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Brian.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes. All right. Be well now. Make it a great day, everybody.